Every person has a story they'll never tell. A decision they wish they could take back. Not because it felt wrong, but because it felt completely harmless. That's the frightening thing about life. The decisions that change everything almost never announce themselves. They don't arrive with alarms. They don't feel dangerous. They feel ordinary. I'll start next week. One more won't hurt. I'll deal with it later. And without realizing it, those tiny decisions begin writing a future you never intended to live. By the time most people notice what's happening, they're no longer making the decision. They're living with it. Tonight, we're uncovering the invisible decisions that quietly destroy lives, long before anyone sees the damage. Most people believe they're avoiding a decision. They aren't. They're making one. Every time you say, "I'll wait," life hears something different. It hears, "Not today." The difficult conversation, the business idea, the workout, the apology, the opportunity, none of them disappear because you postponed them. They simply continue without you. Waiting feels safe because nothing seems to happen. That's the illusion. While you're waiting, time is still moving, people are still changing, opportunities are still disappearing, your future is still being written. The truth is, indecision doesn't pause your life. It quietly decides it. That's why waiting becomes one of the most expensive decisions you'll ever make. Not because you chose the wrong path, but because you never chose one at all. Every day you delay a decision, you're allowing life to make it for you. And life rarely asks what you wanted. It simply moves on. That's the first invisible decision that quietly destroys lives. Because the decisions you don't make often make you. Comfort has a quiet way of making decisions for you. It never demands attention. It simply whispers, "Stay where you are. One more day, one more excuse, one more tomorrow." And because nothing feels wrong, you never notice what's slowly disappearing. Growth, confidence, possibility. Comfort doesn't steal your future overnight. It borrows it, one ordinary day at a time. That's why the most dangerous routines rarely feel dangerous. They feel familiar. The same drive to work, the same conversations, the same excuses, the same promises you'll make to yourself again tomorrow. Eventually, comfort becomes invisible. You stop questioning it. You stop challenging it. You start calling it who I am. But identity is often nothing more than repeated choices. And every time comfort chooses for you, your future becomes a little smaller. Not because you failed, but because you slowly stopped moving. Comfort isn't the enemy. Living there forever is. Because the safest place today can quietly become the biggest regret tomorrow. And most people don't realize they've built a prison until they try to leave. Excuses are strange. The first time you tell one, you know it's a lie. The second time, it feels reasonable. By the 10th time, it feels like the truth. That's how habits begin. Not with actions, but with stories. I'm too busy. I'm too tired. This just isn't the right time. Every excuse feels harmless because it protects you from discomfort. For a moment, it even feels good. You don't have to face the fear, the risk, the possibility of failure. But every excuse comes with a hidden cost. It doesn't just delay your progress, it quietly rewrites your identity, because every time you repeat the same excuse, your mind begins to believe it. Eventually, you stop saying, "I can't do it today," and start believing, "I'm just not the kind of person who does that." That's the moment everything changes. Your excuses stop protecting your comfort and start defining your future. The most dangerous habits rarely begin with actions. They begin with the stories we tell ourselves. And the longer we repeat them, the harder they become to question. One excuse doesn't change your life, but 1,000 excuses create a life you never meant to live. No one changes overnight, not into the person they dreamed of becoming, and not into the person they promised they'd never be. It happens much more quietly. One compromise, one excuse, one moment where you tell yourself, "It's not that bad." You tolerate the disrespect, the unhealthy habit, the job that drains you, the friendship that only exists when someone needs something from you. At first, it feels temporary. You convince yourself you'll deal with it later, but later has a strange habit of becoming years. The things you repeatedly tolerate slowly become your normal. And once something feels normal, you stop noticing it. That's how people wake up living lives they never consciously chose. Not because they chased the wrong future, but because they accepted the wrong present. Every boundary you refuse to protect teaches people how to treat you. Every standard you quietly lower becomes your new standard. Life rarely takes everything from you at once. It simply asks, what are you willing to accept today? And whatever your answer is, it asks again tomorrow. Eventually, you don't become what you wanted. You become what you repeatedly allowed. Very few decisions are made alone. We like to believe they are. But every opinion you hear, every expectation you carry, every fear you inherit, comes from someone. The people around you don't just influence your choices, they quietly redefine what feels normal. Spend enough time with people who settle, and ambition begins to feel unrealistic. Spend enough time with people who complain, and gratitude starts feeling unfamiliar. Spend enough time with people who stop growing, and growth begins to look unnecessary. It happens so slowly, you never notice the shift. Because influence rarely arrives as pressure. It arrives as permission. Permission to procrastinate. Permission to stay comfortable. Permission to lower your standards. Eventually, you stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What does everyone else think?" That's the moment your future quietly changes. The people closest to you may never tell you which road to take, but they shape the version of you that chooses the road. That's why changing your life sometimes has nothing to do with changing your goals. It begins by changing the voices you hear every single day. Because every conversation, every friendship, every relationship is slowly editing the person you're becoming. And one day, you'll look at your life and realize you didn't just choose your future, you absorbed it. People imagine life changing because of one huge decision: a new job, a new city, a marriage, a breakup. But life rarely works that way. One decision quietly creates another, and another, until one day, you wake up inside a life you never consciously planned. The decision to wait becomes the habit of waiting. The habit of waiting becomes the fear of acting. The fear of acting becomes the life you settle for. That's how ordinary choices become extraordinary consequences. Not because they were powerful alone, but because they never stayed alone. Every decision compounds. Every action creates momentum. Every excuse teaches the next excuse. Every compromise makes the next compromise easier. The frightening truth is, your future isn't being built tomorrow. It's being built right now. In choices so small, most people never even notice them. The life you'll be living 5 years from now is already taking shape inside today's ordinary moments. That's why the most important decision you'll ever make is the one you think doesn't matter. Because one invisible decision can quietly rewrite an entire lifetime. So before you tell yourself, "It's only this once," ask a different question. What kind of life does this decision create if I repeat it? Because the future rarely arrives all at once. It arrives one unnoticed decision at a time. If this documentary changed the way you look at your own decisions, don't let it become another lesson you forget tomorrow. There are more truths about human behavior, psychology, and the invisible patterns that shape our lives. If you'd rather learn them before life teaches them, subscribe to The Silent Social.